Hello, hello. I am happy to be here with you on a beautiful Saturday morning. It is an exciting day for us to be chatting because today we're really going to talk about how you can build up all that passion in an introductory course, or even in just some CE or reading an article or just learning about OMT. And then you bring all that passion to the office and then you get a hard and it's like, whoa, I was not prepared for this. This is something that I wind up talking to a lot of people about. And so I'm really excited to talk to a group and kind of get to a group consensus. And so let's dive in. Hi, Sherry. Thank you for saying hi. Anybody else who's watching, please give me a hi, hello in the chat wherever you are watching from, because it just lets me know you can hear me, you can see me, and we're good to go. Okay. So, welcomes are all over, but I do want to keep this going. So the comments, they help. It just helps get it to more people. If you are one of these hygienists who wish, like I do, that this kind of stuff existed when you first started, that you had a way to access free information, that there wasn't some gate kept around all of the information that you really, really wanted to know. And then you had to go and like spend thousands of dollars to learn a fraction of it and come out confused. Well, if we would like more of this content, let's just keep it going. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way, you're the first to know anytime that I'm posting up one of the events. The algorithm doesn't always share the invitations on LinkedIn or Facebook. And so if you miss it in the Mayo community and or you miss it on LinkedIn, you'll be able to get first notification on YouTube, and then make sure that you're commenting and sharing is caring. Continue to share. Okay. All right, let's jump in because this is exactly what happens. Everybody gets so excited. I remember how excited I was. I started in uh, dentistry in a group practice that was a bunch of different specialties. We had ortho, we had oral surgery, we had perio, we had everybody. Everybody was in the same building. And it was me and like five or six other hygienists. It was a lot of us. And we didn't really do airway. We didn't do airway at all, but there was a pediatric dentist who was doing airway. And in her way of doing airway, she's like kind of doing it like on the low. She kind of got me interested. Like the first time I started to hear about myofunctional therapy was in 2014. And I was like, whoa, this sounds interesting, but one, too expensive, and two, I don't see the true utility of it yet because nobody else is doing it. It's just some like hush hush secret thing. But then 2 years later, I went to go work for her, and she's like, you really got to get into this. Like, you have to understand. And so she took me to different conferences. We went to a couple of different places. I got to hear Scott Siegel speak, and I got to talk to Joy Moeller, and I got to do this and do that, and we got to be everywhere and do all the things. And it was really exciting. And she wanted me to get into Mayo, and so she was like, you need to take a course, but like also you need to pay for that course. So you need to like take a course and pay for it. And I was so excited by the time I really, really understood what this was and what the potential was. And I remember being in the course. So I had a whole hour-long stream about my journey into Mayo. And so you can dive a little deeper there. But I just remember that feeling that I had in the course where I'm like doodling what my logo is going to be. And I'm kind of paying attention, but also kind of not. And so I'm looking, what's my logo going to be? How am I going to do this? Like, I'm getting so excited. And then I get to the office on Monday. And one, I'm really confused because I took like one of those really fast 4-day, 28-hour courses from the IAOM back in 2017. And I was like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to implement this. But I had all the business stuff going in my mind, and I kind of knew how I was going to talk to patients about it, but I just didn't really understand how to put it together, right? And the doctor I talked to, so this pediatric dentist who was so excited for me to get on board, she's doing airway, and this is like the dream, right? I go back to an office that is ready for airway and is ready for me to do Mayo, and I've got to implement it. And it was a different kind of resistance. It was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know what you're thinking, but here's how this whole Mayo thing is going to go. And that was such a breaking point in so many ways that I didn't know about. We wound up working together for like another 2 years or close to 2 years after that. But it was just, everything was always different after that point, like us just having these different perspectives. And so I get the excitement. I get that you want to go back, you want to run back into the office, and you're like, I'm going to talk to all the people about this, and they're going to hear about it, and everybody's going to want to sign up. And I'm going to have so many Myo clients, and I don't know if I'm going to still be able to do hygiene at all. But, you know, that's just not always the way it works out. And so most of us begin somewhere here on some sort of schedule, on some sort of spectrum. I'm sorry. You're either temping and you're in a bunch of different offices and you're like, I don't even know, like, I'm going to start my own Myo business and I'll try to talk to people as I am working with them. And I'm the temp. So I'll go in and I'll see people and I'll see the things because now I've got my new Myo eyes. I'm going to see all the things. I'm going to tell them about it. I'm going to give them my card, or I'm going to tell them how to contact me, give them my phone number. And then from there, it's going to be business flowing, right? Or you're practicing part-time in an office, might be practicing part-time in between two or more offices, and you're hoping that you'll be able to talk to the patients in each of those offices. Or you're practicing full-time in one office, maybe even in corporate dentistry. I've done that, where I've done the full-time in corporate dentistry as a myofunctional therapist, trying to talk to people about myo. And there's just a way that you have to finesse this. I don't want you to have what typically happens, where people start breaking down these relationships that they have with a fantastic provider. In every sense of the word, with that pediatric dentist, I was in a unicorn office. The team was small. We loved each other. We were all passionate about airway. I could talk freely and fully about airway. I had some level of control over some of it, and then other levels of control that I didn't have over it. And there really didn't need to be the point of contention. That could have been my forever home, or it could have been forever whatever my hygiene career was after that. But it became that. And I don't want that for you. No matter where you are, you're going to come out of this kind of with a plan and understanding how you can tackle this in a way that's not going to break down those relationships. Because I don't want that for you. And I don't want that for anyone, to be honest. Okay. So you start there and you're practicing and you come out of this course and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tell everybody, like, hey, look at this, and hey doc, I took this course. Or maybe you told the doc before you were going to go do the course, hey, I finished this course, I'm really excited about this, I want to talk about it. And then you like bring them along, and then you find yourself with a hard like, nope, we're not doing that. Or it's just an unexpected response. So even if they had their own plan in mind and it's separate from your plans, or they have like a 3-year plan and eventually we'll build in Myo, but it won't be right now. Well, these are not the things that you want to be hit with when you have that energy, because that energy, it's like reverberating through you and you're feeling the movement in the moment and you are ready to just implement, and now you can't tell people about it. Well, that's going to be really hard because now that's all you see. It's everywhere. So many people that you may have seen forever if you've been in the same office the whole time, they have tongue ties, they have oral facial dysfunction. You're seeing the strain on the mentalis. You're able to feel and you feel dysfunction. You're noticing their occlusion in a different light. You're looking at a cross bite different. You're looking at an open bite different. You're understanding why the tongue, why they're in orally defensive posture. Like all of this stuff, you're like, I can't ignore this. So you don't want to let it go. And you don't want to teeter that line. And it's very confusing, right? You're like, why? Why are we getting this pushback? Like, come on, guys. If I just share with you how amazing OMT is, if you just understand all the things that myofunctional therapy can do, then very clearly you're going to want this in your office. You're going to want this for your patients. You're going to want this for everybody. And then they're like, no. Or they do let you share. And then you start sharing all these things. It can help with this, it can help with that, and all this, and that. And I got to tell you that this continues to be overwhelming. It doesn't matter how many years I'm at conferences networking. I am on boots on the ground in offices networking. I am online networking. When people ask what OMT can do and what the capabilities are, having too many answers is a problem. It's a problem because it becomes confusing, and it also becomes, well, I don't know where to focus. And if I don't know where to focus, then it's really not for me, and I can't explain it forward to my patients. So I really highly suggest that you narrow down if you're going to be networking and you really want to be successful at networking, or like bringing people on board who might be a little resistant. And I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself here, but I want you to have a streamline message. Make sure that if you are going to a general dentist and they are known, and you look at all the reviews and you're looking for common trends in the reviews, or you have AI doing that for you, because hello, why not? You are looking for what kind of services they're providing more often than not. Is it crowns and people are talking about bridges, or dentures, or are they talking about bruxism and the doctor helped them with being able to get a night guard? And then most of the reviews are about night guards. Awesome. You want to speak to what it is that their main focus is, what it is that they're best known for. Like, how can they amplify what they're already doing? Or how can OMT complement what they're already doing? But going in there and being like, oh, it's great for kids, and so that they can grow and develop wonderfully, and it's great for digestive disorders, and it's great for this, and it's great for that, and it's great for that. Well, I don't care about any of that. Okay, I'm the night guard dentist, and like this is what I do. I do restorative and I do night guards, and you didn't mention any of that, or you mentioned it just as a little blip amongst a bunch of other things. It just makes you seem like you're overzealous about something that can't possibly be that good. And so just tone it back just a little bit. Okay. But let's get back on track. It's confusing, and you're sharing all the things, and we know what it can help with. We know that it can do all of the things. We know that it can. It's just tempering how we present that. But I want you to pay attention to this video, and then we'll talk about it in a second, okay? So I'm going to play this video for us, and then we'll chat. I just repeated myself, but don't worry.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13.
Anybody got it right? Put it in the comments.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
It's easy to miss something that you're not looking for. This is about, motorcycles and cars and on the road and whatever, and it's not really relevant directly to OMT. But let me tell you how incredibly true it rings home. If you're not looking for OMDs, oral myofunctional disorders, you're not going to see them. If you're not familiar with OMT, you're not going to see the value. You're not looking for these things, right? It's kind of like how you have a brand new set of eyes and they do not. And you'll never see the same thing the same way. Let me see if I can get this there we go, advance. Okay. It's kind of like Where's Waldo? Anybody remember Where's Waldo? Throw it in the chat. Yeah, I remember Where's Waldo. Where's Waldo is these like amazingly distracting pictures, and you're looking for this guy, and he's in like this striped red shirt. Most of the times it's a striped red shirt. And he's got a little striped beanie, and he's like a weird looking haircut, and he's a silly looking guy, right? And you're supposed to find him amongst all the chaos in the picture. And some are really hard and some are really easy. It's kind of like those people who you feel like are super obvious airway cases, and then the ones who are just like, well, maybe they could wait, or maybe we need to send them somewhere else first, or so forth. But it's kind of like knowing where Waldo is on the page. Once you know where Waldo is in the picture, you're not going to be able to unsee it. Whereas people who don't know where Waldo is, that's not something that they would see right away, right? So now that I've pointed it out to you with that nice little orange arrow there, you're not going to be able to unsee it. I could remove the arrow, and you always know where Waldo is. It will no longer be able to like distract you. You won't be distracted by all the other things. And so just imagine it as somebody else just has different eyes. They don't know, they can't see it the same way that you see it. It's going to be an issue. It's going to be problematic. Okay. I'm just going to tap in really quick. Sherry still gets caught not seeing the bear. That's funny. Okay. So once you see it, once you know it, once you see where it is, you can't unsee it. So I get your passion, but you got to temper that down a little bit. You got to remember what's important and what your actual goal is, okay? Because the problem is you come out, you're so excited, you know all these things, you know what OMT can do, you know how passionate you are, you want to help people. And now when you see things, you feel like you've spotted Waldo, you want to take him out of the chaos. You've spotted an OMD, you want to help them and save their lives because you're like, oh my gosh, you're not breathing well, you're not digesting properly, you're not going to be able to live as long a functional life. You're probably going to have cardiac problems, and it's going to be all my fault because I wasn't able to help you. Just break it down a little bit. The problem is that we need to be able to better bridge the gap between the information that you get in that course, that introductory course, or the information that you get in a continuing educational course before you get to your introductory course. But wherever you're getting your information, wherever you're curating your excitement, you're going to have to bridge the gap between that and implementation before you have a conversation with anybody that you might be working for or with about the implementation of myofunctional therapy in the office. Taking a course is not enough. Most courses are not offering mentorship. And if they are offering mentorship, it's not the mentorship that matters because we're clinicians. As hygienists, we are clinicians. So you are tactile, you like to get your hands on things, you worked in clinic prior to ever getting into a real office and working in a real way. You had people over your shoulder. They were telling you if you were doing something right or wrong. They were leading you in instrumentation and how you would hold the instrument, how you use it, and so forth. We're not catered to just having a bunch of didactic information without any clinical applications and being able to just go back and be like, boop, well, now we've got the systems and workflows to be able to put this in the office so that it makes sense for the practice owner and for the patients, and we can just bridge this all lovingly together. You've got to be able to bridge that gap in a way that's going to make sense for a business owner. And I totally get that sometimes it's a harder bridge for a lot of us who are not business minded. We are taught as hygienists to come into a practice as an employee. We are bred to be employees. We are told we don't even have our own dental board in 49 states, like yay, California, but like the rest of us are kind of out here under the thumb of a dental board and not really our own board. And so where we kind of lie is in this weird space where you have to make sure that the decisions you're making, if you're going to make an investment, and I want to stress that an investment in a course is always expected to be an investment. You need to be able to determine solidly where you will get that money back from. And it's not your hopes, your dreams. It has to be like actual I know I can do this, that's going to be the thing that creates the people who get frustrated and, have wasted a bunch of money versus the people who are able to flourish and be profitable and proficient and able to help as many people as possible. Okay. So before we can get it in the office, you got to be able to bridge the gap. Short reprieve here. If you are new to Mayo, there's a playlist actually that I came up with, and where is my banner? There we go. Awesome. There's a playlist that I put together of a bunch of the different live streams that I've done that are specific to people who are brand new. And so use either one of the links, either youtube.com/@the-Mayo-spot, and you'll find the playlist under my channel's playlist, or bit.ly/RDH2OMT. And that's a great way for you to get that playlist too. These are great places to understand how you could get the smartest start possible, what kind of questions you need to ask yourself. How is it that you're going to be able to bridge that gap from your introductory course, from that level on? Okay. That way you're not here like the rest of us who had to figure it out on our own. My story is I had to figure it out on my own. This was not something that I had somebody guiding me towards or making me understand. And for those of you who are in existence, Mayo Launch still exists for that, to help you bridge the gap in ways that are affordable. So I think the two things that I wanted to highlight here really quickly before we get into like the deeper bits of my content, Mayo Docs, always a great way if you're trying to figure out and you need like customizable templates of all sorts of paperwork. You need a CRM so that you can manage all of your people, like, and know and understand how you're moving patients through your systems. This is the course. Okay. Mayo Docs, $197. It's really not a bad deal at all. And then Mayo Promo would be the secondary one, because Mayo Promo is going to tell you how you need to market. That way you can stand out. That way you can have better conversations that aren't Mayo does everything and I can help everyone and I'm going to be the person who helps you do da 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 da. Because it doesn't sound like you're for anyone when you're able to help everyone with absolutely everything. Okay. So let's get back to bridging the gap, because I want you to have nice, happy pictures of like, oh, I'm in my unicorn office and I love my doctor and I love who I work with and we are working together so well. And hopefully you could stay like that, because once you do hit that kind of roadblock, that it taints things just a little bit. Even if it's your best office you've ever been in yet, it does taint things a little bit. It turns things a little bit on its head. Okay. So understand first, when you're going in, you want to have this conversation. What's your objective? What is the primary goal? What is it that you're looking to achieve? Are you hoping to help build the practice? Are you wanting to partner with the dentist in building the practice, and in so produce something like a innovative integrative system with myofunctional therapy, so that you're providing alternative holistic services? Myofunctional therapy, and I don't know how many of you are actually diving into research, but like the more I learn, the more I grow in business, the more I discover there's so much research out there. There's so much that you can quantify with numbers and with actual data. Myofunctional therapy is scheduled to be in the medical and dental sector for sure. But overall, by the time we hit 2027, it's a $2.5 billion industry. That's where it's projected to be, $2.5 billion. That is multiples on multiples upon which people need to be claiming now in their practices, because if you catch on, if you're not an early adopter, you're going to be lost in the game. That's like when Blockbuster didn't pick up that they needed to go digital because Netflix was digital, and they adopted early to the fact that the internet and our screens were going to be a big thing. And so they're like, let's get this thing going. We're going digital. And Blockbuster's like, nope, we're going to hold steady exactly where we are. We're not going to change a thing. And then you find them not doing well later on. That's what's happening to a lot of our retail industry, right? Where I have malls all around me everywhere. I'm in New Jersey right now. In New Jersey, it's happening. Malls are dying, and New Jersey is known for the mall. Like that's all we do is go to the mall. At the malls in Florida, also dying. Retail is not what it used to be because now everything is a click of a button away. I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to put on a face of makeup or do my hair or leave my house, drive down to wherever the nearest mall is, even if it's 10, 15 minutes away. I don't have to do any of that to then walk out to park the car, walk through the mall, and have to do the whole shebang of shopping. I can get a phone in my hand and scroll and shop. So if you're not innovating, if you're not moving forward with the times, you're going to lose it. In 2022, the National Health Institute did a study, and 80%, this is over nearly 300,000 people that they've surveyed in America. 80% wanted more integrative services, more natural, holistic services in their medical and dental offices. And where are we now with that? Well, in 2022, they did the survey. Here we are 2 years later, and less than 1% of dentistry is actually practicing it. So you're losing out on your opportunity to be an early adopter of $2.7 billion industry in the next couple of years. You're losing out on a competitive advantage. You're losing out on the ability to really gain organic referrals, right? Can you imagine all the people? Every time I talk to a myofunctional therapist, or I have a lot of friends who are myofunctional therapists, I have a monthly mastermind where we just all get together. And anytime I talk to somebody, they're like, more people are finding me now more than ever. People are just finding me. Can you imagine being the dental office that's adopted this, and now you're found, and so now you're their dental home? They're leaving whoever XYZ dental because I don't need XYZ dental. I'm going to go here. They have the myofunctional therapy, they have the airway, they have all the education, they have the natural services. Like, this is what these generations that are shopping, that are looking online, everybody thinks they need a website and we need social media, and we need all of that. The days are long gone when you can have a business and not have a website. The days are long gone when you can have a dental practice and not have holistic services like myofunctional therapy. So are you trying to build the practice because you have a really good argument? You could organically build up referrals by upwards of 40%. I got the data. Like, you have to understand where you're coming in and why you're having this conversation. Now, if you're not looking to build the practice as like a partner and you're just looking to earn some more income, how can you earn more income while it's beneficial to the practice owner or whoever you're working with, that dentist that you're working with? Like, what is the incentive? What's in it for them? We're all concerned about what's in it for us, right? So let's say you're not necessarily wanting to go in with all the data for the practice, but you're wanting to go in about how you can build more income and additional revenue stream, and you're happy to share some of that revenue stream with the office. And in sharing the revenue stream with the office, that means just you're building it up, and then they're going to use certain amounts of resources, whether it be the team at the front who is making phone calls or scheduling for you, or hyping up the services, and then you're giving a portion because those are not your employees, those are team members of the company that you work for. And you have to understand how you're coming in. Okay, is it to earn more income, or are you just looking to help as many patients as possible? Because that's where that whole approach, where I think most people go in with that approach. Well, what I really want to do is I want to implement this so that we can help as many people as possible. We have so many people. 80% of these people probably have some sort of sleep disorder that we're not looking at. And in 2017, the ADA said that we're supposed to look at da-da-da. You can go in with all of that data. It's all to help more patients. But is that the primary directive of your office? And be real. Is that the primary directive of the office? Is the office actually looking to help more patients no matter the cost? There are some practices that are like that, where people are overly giving and generous, where they may have other practices, and so they're willing to help an underserved community. And sure, we'd love to offer Myo as an additional thing that we do in this office, and we're happy to help however it can help. That's wonderful. But just be honest with yourself. Because yes, we all get into this to help people, but helping, you can't go to whoever has your mortgage, whether it be like, I don't know, TD Bank. Let's say TD Bank has your mortgage and you go to TD Bank and you're like, but I helped 83 people this month. They're going to be like, okay, but your mortgage is still due. Like that does not pay the bills. Okay. So helping more patients is wonderful, but you just have to know what the goal is with the person that you're talking to. Okay. Because whatever your goals are, it has to match their goals. Like if you're going in blind and you don't understand what your doctor's goals are, start there. I would say, hey, doc, I want to sit down with you. I want to know where it is you're looking to go. Like, I want to know what kind of role I can play in this practice and in the growth of this practice, because businesses are babies. And so that practice is their baby. They're putting forth a lot of effort into growing the practice, and knowing that they have somebody who's going to help them grow it, even better, right? So what's their goals? What's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What role do you see me having in this growth? And where can we, kind of collaborate going forward in what you're envisioning? Okay. So having an open and honest conversation to just understand what their goals are is going to be the key, because in order to communicate effectively, you have to know your audience. You have to be able to identify with your audience. If your doctor does not care that you want to help as many patients as possible, their bottom line, their overhead has risen by so much. We know the cost of everything has gone up, and that's the same for their overhead. Their overhead has gone up. So now that decreases their margins and they need additional revenue, not additional expenses. And so if it's going to take you a year to build up this myofunctional therapy thing, how much is that going to cost in the long run? How much are they paying you out as an employee, as a hygienist and myofunctional therapist? How much are they expending in products or software or supplies that are going to help you to build this up? And when will it make a return on the investment? Can you give data? Can you give a reasonable projection of that based on what you know? I don't know. You have to be able to be ready to have that conversation. Otherwise, you're always going to be talking to a brick wall, and it's always going to be like, oh, they don't understand, and they don't want my research papers, and they don't want to know, how I can help the patients to breathe better, and I don't understand because this is so wonderful, and like, how can they not be into airway? Like, airway's everywhere. It's at our state conference. It's at this conference. It's here, there, and wherever. That's not the main focus. Okay. Everybody's self-focused. We all reflect internally. And what does this benefit all parties involved in the conversation should be what leads the conversation in its entirety. Okay. So be prepared to answer these questions. And I guarantee you there's more questions that I didn't even think of. But be prepared to answer. These are the best questions that I could think of off the top of my head. How will you produce revenue? This is not how much you're charging. This is, what are the profit margins for this? How much time are you going to spend actually working, seeing clients? How much of that time are you going to spend afterwards with like charting, cleaning the room, resetting, doing whatever? How much time are you going to spend doing that? What is that totality of cost? Breakdown per hour. Sure. Break down per hour if you want. And then how much are you charging? Okay. How much are supplies? What are the fees and expenses for additional time that this may take away from other team members, other roles? Or what is the expense for keeping the lights on, running the autoclave more times, or doing doing anything that might create an additional utility, the electricity and so forth? Like what are the costs and expenses there? Then what are the profit margins after you've met that? And then how are we producing a revenue, not an additional expense for the practice? How are we producing a revenue? Now, once you start speaking in terms of like, okay, I understand this is exactly what I need to be presenting in order to get my doctor's attention, because now they're going to see, okay, this isn't just something where I'm just super passionate. We've all had that. I'm sure even your doctors had that. They've gone to some conference, they've learned something, they've seen some technique, or they see some new machine, or they buy some laser, or they do this, that, and the other. And they bring it to the office and they're excited and they're like, come on, guys, we're going to use this. And the front office administrative staff, I want you guys to be billing out certain codes. Like, I got this from this continuing education, like, bill out these codes, and you're going to talk about it in hygiene, and I want you scanning every patient, and I want you doing this, and I want you doing that, I want you doing that, because they're really excited about this new thing that they learned. So they can definitely get it. They can understand the passion upon which. But you do that enough times and you start failing enough times, or like it really just doesn't pan out the way that you intended, or now you have to hire a consultant to help you integrate the thing, and then that's an added expense. And then sometimes you get a really great consultant or really great coach who's able to help, and other times it's just a bad match and you wind up just spending money but not really getting money back, because whatever they're telling you to implement, it just doesn't mesh with your style. Like, it just doesn't work. So how is this going to produce revenue? Like, think about all that could go wrong, all that could go right, mitigate the risk, and what's the revenue looking like now? Okay. What resources will this involve? Is this going to take time? Now, when I had my pediatric office and we're setting up our airway thing, I had no idea that I was supposed to be running all of it, because again, while I'm doodling in class, this was not what I envisioned. But what I came back to is like, okay, so pediatrics, so I only have 30 minutes for everybody, and not all the kids are like super happy to be here and cooperative. So my 30 minutes sometimes gets like ground down to nothing if I get a temper tantrum. But 30 minutes, I x-rays, whatever, get them in the chair, we're going background and the meta history and reviewing things, and get them comfortable and laugh and allow them to make three choices, because when they make three choices, that typically is allowing them to break down a mental barrier that they might have had to the chair. Awesome. So now they're in the chair and the chair's going back now. Wee, because it's not that fast, right? Wee, it takes forever. You're doing the whole wee, so they go down, and now they're down, and sometimes they don't even like that, so now you gotta bring them back up. Okay, no problem. Wee, we come back up, and then we're doing work, and then we're breaking down our back, and we're moving, and we're manipulating, we're doing all the things. And then while I'm there and while I'm doing that and while I'm trying to manage this child, and more importantly, the adult, because the adults sometimes are the worst part of that experience, while I'm trying to manage this child, I have to look. I'm looking, I'm finding my things, and I have to talk about that. And then I have to talk about that not only from my perspective, but because I'm a airway hygienist, now I have to talk about it from like myo, and look at all these great appliances and things that we can do to help out. And parent, like, look at your child, and I'm doing all this education, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna go get the doctor, and while I'm in the midst of getting the doctor, it's really like a switch. Okay, so I'm in the midst of getting the doctor's in the midst of whatever appliance case she may have been working on, they may have been working on. And as we get to that point, now I'm in the room and I'm talking to whatever their client was, or whatever patient, sorry, that they had. And I'm talking to them about myo, and then I have to book it and I have to schedule it myself. And any sorts of confirmations or payments or, rescheduling or whatever, all of that was me. That was not to be put on the front team. The front team had their own thing. So the front team was not to deal with any of my stuff. I had my own separate billing. I had my own separate software. I had my own separate login, separate email, separate everything. So I was supposed to be the hygienist and the myofunctional therapist, all in one role. Not like that, guys, but all in one role, because I had to now be the person in charge of sales and scheduling and accounting. And I had to be in charge of all of those things. I had to take on all of those roles, right? So that's a possibility. It wasn't impossible. I did it. It was a lot, but I did it. And it's something that you could do too. Or will this take additional resources? Like, you don't want to do all that. You want to involve the team in it and you want them to be a part of this. Okay. What are their fees? What is it that they might have to stay a little longer for? Like, how are they being worked into your equation of your revenue if people are having to spend additional time doing certain things? Like, if they have to confirm the schedule for hygiene and confirm a schedule for Mayo, if they're doing this and they're doing that, like, what other resources will this involve? Okay. What responsibilities will you take in team education and training? So that was a big one too, where even still, I would be bouncing back from up to up talking about the Mayo, and it never fails that there was occasionally somebody who would go to the front and be like, wait, what's this myofunctional thing? I really just don't understand. And they expect my administrative team to help. And the administrators are like, hold on, let me get Carice for you. And so it's like, okay, well, now I'm doing all the work like in the back, and I've got to do some of the work in the front too by going and reiterating this Mayo thing. So then we had to sit down and have like a team education and a team training and so forth. Are you going to be responsible for that? Or are you going to do what some people have done? Are you going to call in somebody who's probably a bit more seasoned than you might be, or more prepared than you might be in presenting myofunctional therapy, in presenting the systems? And so I've been asked to do lunch and learns for offices where I'm not going to be the myofunctional therapist, where I'm helping them to figure out, okay, this is how it looks. These are the questions the front needs to ask. This is how they need to understand it. Da, 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 da. And then we're doing all of that kind of collaboratively in a lunch and learn. And so are you going to be responsible for that? Be prepared, because that's a very real possibility. Okay. How are you going to communicate this with patients? There's nothing more frustrating than altering the patient experience in your practice. When you alter the patient experience in the practice, this is now going to bring the practice down on like one of those really fast declines that if you imagine a plane in the sky flying straight, and then they take off the autopilot and they just jam down the steering, and now you're in a nosedive. That's what happens with a lot of practices that don't implement things correctly. When you get really excited and you start implementing new things, then suddenly now they think that you are just out here for the money. You're just out it for the money. You've never talked to me about this before. I have no idea what you're talking about. Why didn't I have this problem 6 months ago? Or I've been coming here for 10 years. And they have all these big, big feelings about it. That's not everybody. There's a lot of people who understand that, yes, you're learning, you're growing, and as things evolve, you are implementing new things. But there are definitely a good chunk of people who are going to need you to hold their hand ever so delicately as you, this is figuratively, but hold their hand ever so delicately as you explain to them what's going on, or new things that you found, or new things that you've learned. Like, how are you going to communicate this? How does that fit into your existing workflow? Like, that's the last one there. Like, where in the workflow does this fit? Because you have a system, you have a way things are done. And when you go outside of that, or, there's not a lot of time in clinical dentistry. You've got so many things to do, and you're just stuck in a loop of a routine. And when things kind of fall out of the routine, or you fall behind and things fall off, it messes up the workflow. So if you don't have your workflow together right now, implementing OMT is not going to be great. But when you're implementing it, where does patient education fit in? Because we know how great a task that is to educate somebody in order for them to really get why they need this, right? What evidence-based research can you present? Now, if this isn't your first time here, if this isn't your first live stream with me, then you know that my answer is, well, none. But you can get really close to some evidence-based research. You can present something that looks like evidence-based research. And when you're presenting that, that's really going to be with the biggest grain of salt. But I would absolutely, if I'm asked for it, I'm going to produce. There are research papers. There's a lot of international research papers. There are a lot of places that have different standards. Like in Brazil, when they're writing their papers, it's for speech. It is something that is within speech speech graduate programs, and it is a part of their system and licensure in speech in Brazil. So when they're looking at it, it's from that perspective for the most part. It's not looking at it from this dental perspective. It's not looking at it from how the field was actually created. And they do it differently. So when I say they do it differently, to be totally honest, we all do it differently. Like nobody has the same Myo programs. Sometimes if you go onto any of these groups in Facebook and you go mention an exercise, some people will be like, what? What are you talking about? Or like, I've never heard that one, or I don't do that, or whatever. But that might be like your staple exercise that you've now, told everybody about. And you're like, how come nobody is doing this? Am I doing something wrong? We have no standardization in the field. And so we can't have evidence-based research. It's not the same. There are no standards upon which we can duplicate the results of a particular research paper based on our methods versus those done in the research paper. And so it's not duplicatable. Can you present research? Yes, you can. But just understand that if your doctor is well read or is really proficient in research and comes back to you and is like, this is a case study, or this only has 8 patients, or this one is done with a method where they only did 5 exercises for 3 months, twice a day. Is that what Myo looks like? If they come back having actually read the details of the methodology that was done in this paper, you better be prepared to come back with, okay, so this is something that is not that evidence-based, but it is something that we can use and utilize in the same way that chiropractics is done. Like, not a lot of people realize that there is this weird division in medicine where MDs, even DOs, there's a level between MDs and DOs. There's a lot of MDs that do not have any respect or much respect for DOs. But then there's also the underlings of the medical community, the chiropractors, who are interpreted as just practicing a pseudoscience. And if you know the history of chiropractic care, you can kind of get to why they got there, because it came off of the back of osteopathy, and just look it up. But we don't devalue chiropractors as a totality, and we don't devalue chiropractors as a public entity. We just understand that their methodology and their ways might work for some, might not work for others, mostly pseudoscience, right? So that's where we are. We're in that weird pseudoscience area, and that's okay. I'm okay being there. You've got to get there too, okay? All right. You are looking at this and you're like, I don't want these problems. I don't want any of these problems whatsoever. I do not want to have to convince somebody to allow me to do it in their office. I just want to do it on my own as an individual. And so I'm going to go around the problem, and I'm just going to kind of low key put it in. I've done that. I've been there. Corporate dentistry. Went to go work in corporate dentistry for a small bit, after I left the pediatric office. And I was like, I can't not talk about Myo, so I'm going to talk about it. And there's a way to do that, guys. Do not just do it openly and like allow the team to, one, look dumb, but then two, make you look dumb by saying, oh no, like she doesn't know what she's talking about, or she's just passionate about this thing. It's not even evidence-based or whatever. Don't allow any of that to happen. You got to finesse it. There's a certain art to how you would communicate all of this. Okay. One, don't cause panic. So don't go and say, hey, okay, so today I noticed that there's a tongue tie, and the tongue tie is typically associated with da 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 da, and then just start ramming information down their throat. Some people are very passionate, and then as a result are more susceptible to word vomit. So don't go causing a panic, okay? Just kind of let them know, I've seen a thing, and this thing that I've seen, we're going to watch it, or here's what I would like. I would like you to do additional research, because that's how I got to learn this thing. So I remember I used to say this when I say, do distinguish yourself. I used to say, well, I was in a multi-hygienist practice again. And so I used to say, look, I spend additional money and I go to different continuing education, and I'm really passionate about this particular topic. And so I spend above and beyond in time and in effort and in money in learning more about these topics. I have a list of books that I think would be really beneficial if you wanted to dive into this rabbit hole too, and to understand what exactly it means to be tongue tied, what exactly it means to have a tongue thrust, what exactly it means to insert problem here, right? I have a list of books. I have these wonderful free resources that you can grab right off my website. This is no shade to any of my peers or to my doctors in this practice. They are wonderfully educated in so many different topics. You want to talk about oral cancer? I know exactly who in the office that I can give you to talk to. But if you want to talk about airway, or if you want to talk about tongue ties, or if you want to talk about TMJ dysfunction, if you want to talk about what, like, they know I'm the go-to. I'm the person to go to. And so it's no shade on them. We all have our special powers. And in having our special powers, I just want to share this with you. Now, when the doctor comes in, the doctor's probably not going to see it, probably won't note it, probably won't mention it to you. It's not something that they are as studied on as I am. I've taken the time myself to really, put forth the effort into learning this, and going to study with some of the top people in the field, like so and so who wrote such and such book or whatever. Distinguish yourself without making anybody else look bad. Allow yourself to be the master of a certain topic and prop up what their talents are and what they are fantastic at talking about. The doctor does the best implant work I've ever seen. He is the go-to. If I was having any issues at all and I needed an implant, in fact, I send my loved ones to them. Like, they're the person to talk to for that. You can prop up the other people in your practice without making everybody look like, oh no, they don't even care about this. Or we're talking about things that the patient's now going to look at them and ask and say, well, why didn't you tell me about this? At least then you're able to bridge that gap in a nicer way. Okay. I wouldn't say it's hush hush. Like I said, you're not going to, like, oh, doctor might not mention it, but they know that I often am talking about this thing. And so, just look at these resources. These are wonderful resources for you. I used to have a QR code that they could scan, that I would keep in my file like in my file drawer at the top of it. Then I would also have my business cards for the people that I thought like really needed help now. Not like, okay, scan this QR code, read more, and then meet me in 6 months. It's like, no, okay, you need this yesterday. And so here's my card. Here's how I can help if you're looking for it. With the QR code, make sure you have educational resources. Now, you do not have to build, produce, create all the resources yourself, but my QR code went to just a blog post that had like where you could learn more. So a list of my top books and the top reads. You want them to read 6 Foot Tiger, 3 Foot Cage, read Jaws. You want them to read whatever your list of books that you would highly recommend. Just put it on a landing page somewhere, pin it to a Pinterest board. Like, that's how I started off really early. Just pin stuff to a Pinterest board, all these books that I loved. And then you're able to get it and they can pin it on their boards, because Pinterest was a little bigger back then than it is now. But have something that's a collection of things that they can get guided advice. Do not allow them to openly roam the internet, okay? Because when you let your people openly roam the internet, they're going to find all the things. They're going to find some resources and education that is not top notch. They might come across certain other professionals who start telling them that it's illegal for RDHs to do things. Like, you don't want them to come across the wrong type of resources and the wrong type of people. So you want to make sure that you're guiding them to good educational resources, okay? Finesse it. So if you're not going to try to get it to implement and you want to have like your own separate business and you just want to keep it close to the vest. When you see somebody that you need to discuss airway with or whatever concerns you might have with whatever, discuss it, but make sure that you're discussing it in a manner that's respectful. Okay. All right. Now, as we're winding down, I'm going to check the comments in a little bit, but I like to end on a nice little positive note. All right. This I thought was very, very nice. And I was like, oh, this is perfect for what we're talking about today. Never give up. Even though you're getting resistance, it's not the end of the world. There's always a way. Okay. Never give up. Never look down. You are not beneath anybody. You are a clinician, a producer, just like your peer in the practice. you are somebody. Okay. And never look back. Don't regret getting that OMT education wherever you got it from. All right. Even if it wasn't the best course, don't just keep looking forward. Keep looking forward. You've got so much beauty ahead of you. So much. Don't let anyone make you feel as if you don't belong or you're unworthy. A lot of people get that sort of demeaning response back, and sometimes it's a defense mechanism. They have no other way of just being able to clearly convey to you that they don't understand what it is that you're trying to implement into the practice, or that they don't understand it enough and they feel inferior with the fact that you know this information in their practice that they don't know. Don't take it personal. Don't allow it to make you feel like you're unworthy. You've got this, okay? Those that do are just not strong enough to handle such greatness. Yes. Be proud of who you are. Hygienists are the ish in OMT. And I will at some point, I need to repost it. But last year, the IAH had a wonderful infographic that really spelled that out distinctly. Okay. We are the ish. I'll repost it when I get a chance. Always walk with your head high. You are never alone, especially as long as I live. I am always going to be here and be here for you. I will look in the chats to see if there are any questions. But always remember, I'm here. I'm open. My chat is always open. You can book time on my calendar. I am happy to meet with you, give you 30 minutes of my time. A lot of you like to direct message me or leave comments here or whatever. You have to understand that I have to stop whatever I'm doing, and I'm easily distracted. I have to stop whatever I'm doing to go to read your message, to think about it, to then reply, or to look for a resource or whatever. But if you book time on my calendar, I'm not pitching you things. I'm literally just spending time helping you to get focused, to understand where it is that you're trying to be. Okay. And at least you have my full attention and I can direct you in that way and give you like real custom personalized guidance. All right. This has been really, really fun. I absolutely love these nice little chats. There we go. Oh, thank you, Carla. Thank you. Wonderful. All right, guys. I appreciate you. Oh, this is a good comment. Carla, you're going up on the screen. Carla suggests the National Network of Healthcare Hygienists Oral Systemic Educator Certificate Program. It helps you to stand out. That is a fantastic program. And I also would agree that that is something for you to 100% pursue and to, implement into your clinical skills. All right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. I look forward to seeing you early next week because that's going to be when we're going to talk. My next topic is going to be about the state of the field. We're going to review the current research in the research initiative by the IAH. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that all with you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.